10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending! You can walk through the fire. You can walk through the fire. When it's down to the wire. You can walk through the fire.
Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the Wrexham Texan. My name is Jake Green. Thank y'all so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. If you want to go follow me on Instagram and Twitter, feel free to, WXM Texan. Today's episode is an interview with the director of photography for the show Welcome to Wrexham. His name is Craig Hastings. He works on documentaries all around the world. He works all the time. He is a fantastic, fantastic cinematographer. And I mean, our interview went extremely well. He seems like such a good dude. I'm so glad that he was able to work out. I mean, let's see. Let's pull up his IMDb real quick. Craig Hastings. There we go. Here are some of his credits. He's cinematographer on Welcome to Wrexham, The Green Planet, Digging for Britain, Rob Bell's Bridges That Built London. I mean, he literally has been working for how long in the camera department? Gosh, over 20 years. Over 20 years he's been a cinematographer. And just worked on loads of interesting things, including one of his projects coming up is that he just flew back in from working on was a project about that city that they're building in Saudi Arabia, The Line, that super long, super thin city out in the middle of the desert. So he's working on that right now, which is interesting. He's also working on Planet Earth 3 that I believe just came out. Which is pretty awesome. And so, yeah. I mean, dude works all the time. Fantastic. Really good dude to talk to. Please stick around for the interview. We get into some technical jargon, but a lot of what he has to say is fantastic insight behind like what happens behind the scenes as a production person, as of somebody on the crew of the documentary series. So if you don't know much about that, you're going to find this episode very interesting. Yeah. I had something else to say and now I'm blanking on what it was. Oh, drop a like on this episode, share it, post about it, all of that good stuff. We're trying to build subscribers for this show so that I can turn this into more of a full-time or part-time job so that I can focus more on the club, more on the team, more on the docuseries, and just more on Wrexham in general. Maybe I can make it over there for the 2024-2025 season so that I can record some episodes in person with some folks in the town of Wrexham. I think that would be a blast. So, yeah, make sure you drop a like and share it around. Post it on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere, Facebook, all of it. Anyway, appreciate y'all listening. Appreciate y'all watching. Here is my interview with Craig Hastings, the director of photography for Welcome to Wrexham. All right, Craig Hastings, thank you so much for joining the show. How are you doing today?
Very good. Pleasure to be here. How are you?
Doing wonderfully. I appreciate you coming on so late at night, your time, after so much travel. I know traveling for work, I assume it's for work, can be pretty exhausting.
It was for work. It was mainly the heat and the dust that was kind of the exhausting part of it. It was just one of those shoots where you're out in the sun all day.
Gotcha. Well, like I said, appreciate you coming on the show. You told me you listened to the first episode before we hopped on tonight, and I got a question that I get asked all the time is, did you ride a horse to school growing up?
Yes, I did.
What? Why did you ride a horse to school
Can I just
growing
leave it
up,
there?
Craig?
So that'll be enough. We'll just go on for the rest of it. So I'm from rural Australia,
Okay.
and my grandfather was a jockey, professional, and we
Wow.
had a lot of horses, and I was handed one as a sort of second-hand horse, if you can call it that, one owner. And occasionally I would ride it to school. And this was very normal, can I say, for other kids. It was a very small school of about 60 kids, all age groups.
Wow.
And there was a grazing field, 4 horses. And the rich kids had motorbikes, and I was desperate for a motorbike. But no, I got a horse.
That is hilarious. That's amazing. One thing that I know happened recently, I forget which state, but here in the States, two guys learned, I think it was in Montana actually, high school students learned that there's a law that when a student shows up to high school with their horse, it is the principal's job to take care of the horse for the day. And so they, on their final day of school, they showed up on 2 horses, and the principal did his duty and went and took care of their horses.
Imagine if that extended to other animals in different countries, elephants,
Oh my gosh.
rhinoceros.
I mean, just imagine if it extended to cars. Like, why didn't that happen?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's good. Yeah. And in the
principal
modern
has
world,
to go get the oil changed, go get the
and in
tires
50 years'
filled.
time, flying cars.
Gosh, man, that'd be a pretty great high school experience to have your entire, vehicular maintenance taken care of by the school.
I see a gap in the market personally.
Well, Craig, for those who don't know, tell us what was your job on Welcome to Wrexham, or what is your job?
So for the first 2 seasons, I was lead DOP, and I wasn't there 100% of the time. I was there 75% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also the lead drone pilot. Season 3 is obviously underway, and I've done a little bit of it. I definitely did the American tour in full, and then not been on it as much. I've sort of gone on to other projects since that time. So approximately 3 years of filming for the first 2 and a little bit Wrexham series.
Nice. For those who don't know, what is DIP?
DOP is Director of Photography.
There we go. Yeah.
And sometimes they just do DP. I don't know why that is. It just means that you're not just sort of the only cameraman or camera woman on the team. You are directing other staff, like an assistant or another camera person, lighting. You're not sort of. I'm not saying that you because obviously especially if on bigger budget films, lighting really bring a lot of skill to it, and they will be quite a big honcho. But generally speaking, on a medium level, you're in charge of more or less all of those departments.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. What was it that got you involved to begin with this show?
So originally I was brought on as the drone pilot only, and that was way back before, just when COVID was getting started. And the main DOP of that time left, and I'm not sure if it was COVID related or I never got to the bottom of that. And then they asked me to come on as a trial basis, and then never left. Couldn't get rid of me.
Well, I imagine, it struck a chord with so many people all around the world, including myself. It's why I became a Wrexham fan, pretty much. I mean, I started looking into Wrexham just before the series aired, but then the series kind of solidified that. So what is it like working on a documentary like this, behind the scenes, as far as like the camaraderie of the crew and like your interaction with your subjects? Like how does that generally go?
Well, are we talking about Wrexham specific or just generally?
We'll just say Wrexham specific this time.
So Wrexham, I think, is a pretty special series. It's certainly been a highlight in my career, not just because it has been such a success, but I've made friends that I know that probably will never go away. Now, as far as the team goes, I think we had an excellent team. We had some, local DOPs and production staff, and we had some London-based staff. We had some from Scotland. We had some from Wales. Especially on big game days, we'd sometimes have 30 people on the camera team, and that's sort of sound assistants, crew. And then as far from the production side, that was heavily US related. Two guys, John and Milos, they sort of, ran the operations from Boardwalk Pictures. And, I've made friends with them, and I hope I'll be working with them, on the next projects, whatever they do. They have both moved off. I sort of talk to them quite regularly. You can you almost know within the first week whether this is going to be, of course, with time and pressure and tiredness, you sometimes, you get a bit frayed, and maybe you aren't getting on as well with the crew as you would on day one. But over time, I've realized that, everyone's in this team has been very professional and done their job fantastically and had a good time. So you walk away from it going, yeah, not only am I getting paid for this, it's like I'm with my mates every day.
Yeah, that's what I found the best thing about making documentaries and making movies is that the acceleration of like friendships happens so quickly when you're going through the stress of making art. And because so much rides on it, and like especially with live things like documentaries, if you miss the moment, it's missed. You can't really recreate it if you're not doing reenactments and stuff like that. So
well, you might say, if we missed it, it never happened in the first place.
There we go.
It.
Absolutely. Now, it seems like a lot of people traveled into Wrexham to help out with the crew and like join the crew for this. How many are locals compared to people who travel in?
From memory, it depends what you mean, how far you want to travel, because definitely there were 2 cameramen who I think, again, are still working at this year, that were in the town. And they, considering Wrexham is such a small town, they were excellent. And, junior is the wrong way to say it, but they had certainly worked on big productions before, but nothing like Wrexham. And they really stepped up to the plate. They, it's been wonderful having someone local and having that local knowledge that you can rely on. And I wanted a soundman that I knew from London, and he was able to do it. And I've worked with him for many years, and it was great, someone to laugh with and someone you really trust. And some other people that I known from Scotland, and some other people that I met who were close by in Wales. And, they, I found out they worked on very high-end productions, things like Drive to Survive for Netflix and things like that. So, we really were bringing in an A-class team, and we found A-class people in Wrexham as well. So it was, I think, very lucky from Boardwalk's point of view to have that sort of quality just sitting there with them, for them.
Yeah, no kidding. I always forget when I talk about other countries or like traveling in like this, I always forget that traveling from London to Wrexham is like, you don't even get halfway across Texas, like with that amount of time. So I forget how small certain countries are. So, the fact that 2 cameramen came from Wrexham is pretty impressive, considering how small the town actually is. Because there's not a ton of great cameramen who know like what they're doing and can jump into a series like this. That's an impressive skill to have.
And also production staff. Like, there's definitely a few there that I thought, I was sort of looking at them about 6 months in, going, I sort of said to them, if you didn't have to stay in Wrexham if you wanted, you've definitely got the skill. The local production company, a company called Troy TV, brought them in, and they sort of thrived under the pressure. And there were some real pressure days. You've got 2 Hollywood stars who are sort of at the top here. You realize, especially the first day they turned up, which was obviously after COVID had settled a little bit and the town went nuts. You know, you had to, you felt like, even though you are essentially doing a documentary and it all goes to ISO that then gets edited later, you do feel the pressure that, like, you know, this is really happening now, even though all the lead up to it and all the fun that you had with the team and the club and the staff who work at the club and the people in the town, you know, it's not as though you don't value what you film with them. Right. But obviously a lot of the reason why we were there is because of these two guys, and you don't want to mess it up when they're around.
Right, for sure. You had mentioned before we started talking that y'all have been filming for a while before y'all basically filmed a whole season before the first season of the documentary series aired. Can you talk about how that came about and why why you think that first season didn't air?
I mean, I think it was purely editorial. They wanted to pick a point where the story would start well, and obviously the history always existed. And I think there was definitely a few interviews that were covered again, so that the editorial did start at the right place. I guess when it came down to it, when they'd sort of, you know, shot enough material, it just made sense. I mean, again, this is sort of not my job, but me personally, when I watched finally episode 1, I was thinking, oh, yep, that absolutely makes sense. You know, if you think about scenes in a film and how important it is to kind of get to the point and bring, you know, hook people straight away, that was a good way of doing it. And I don't know. I mean, you tell me, what do you think? Because we certainly had a lot of material in the bag by that time, but it just made sense. It just made sense to me to start where it started.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I thought, like, the story was compelling from the very first moment, like the very first scene. I thought the first season, much like I compared a lot to Ted Lasso in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Ted Lasso's like first season may have been one of the best full seasons of a comedy series ever. And I kind of feel that way about the first season of Welcome to Wrexham. Like it makes it to where the seasons afterward are going to be hard to top that first season. And so, I thought where they started was a perfect place to start. And so it makes sense. I mean, like you said before the call, like that's an expensive call to make, to just kind of almost throw out an entire season of filming. But the fact that they did that kind of shows their dedication to the story and to what they thought would be compelling, which is very impressive.
Yeah, and I'm sure they sort of sat there and, you know, there was I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure there were programs that were edited to start at other places. And it just, for them, it just like, you know, that's just not working. Let's keep going with this. And it's testament to, you know, everyone who worked on it, especially on the editorial level, that, you know, they really thought about where, you know, starts are important, aren't they? And obviously, if you don't get a start right, it doesn't mean you won't have a success. But if you can, it's 50 to 70% of getting you, you know, to people watching the next episode and then the next episode and the next episode.
Right, exactly. One of the questions, for some reason, people ask me frequently about this show is they ask me, how many cameras do you think are going during a match? Can you shed some light on that so I can stop having to guess?
Well, it varies. It definitely varies. And like some matches, they consider more important than others. And also, you know, budgets aren't unlimited.
Right.
So like some of the FA Cup stuff, it was just me. And I would go to the goal end and then try and be around everything. And, you know, there was one an episode I was really happy with. I just happened to be everywhere at the right time. And that was that FA Cup where Ryan had arrived and I was in the corner with two of Mullen's goals, and then straight up to the box to catch Ryan's enthusiasm, which was great. And I just remember thinking, I said to the showrunner, I said, I just happened to be everywhere just at the right time. And we shoot on either prime or ingenue lenses, so you are restricted. You don't have an everything lens, so you kind of just. But once you've filmed things a while, you think, I kind of know what I don't need, and hopefully you're in the right place. So we definitely have scaled up, though. Like we would. I'm trying to think of our biggest day. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably, I'm gonna guess around 6 cameras on a match day. So you'd have 2 corner cameras with quite long lenses, 51,000 lenses. They're the ones I do a bit of natural history, and I just finished a while ago on Planet Earth 3. We would use those lenses for our, the animal, to keep as far away as possible and not let them know where you are, and it's great for football. And then you would have, for the actuality cameras, the shoulder cameras, you would a mix of primes, Zeiss primes, or ingenues that are sort of 30 to 90. And that way we've got a really nice f-stop on our actuality, and makes it look very filmic. And you also need a little bit less lighting if you don't want to use it. And some of the more fixed cameras that were on tripods, saying getting wide shots, they just might have a Canon lens on it, because even though it's important, it's not as important as the character stuff that you're doing. And the super close-ups, you're getting everything, and those 2 guys, I only did it a couple of times, but Leighton and Gareth, I remember the 2 corner guys who did it, and they were amazing, and they'd done a lot of football. So, and just watching, especially their confidence grow, because I know that John and Milosh were like, closer, because we want that sort of, we want that super duper slow-mo quality.
Yes.
And it's a risk, and I quite often would talk to the guys when they were worried about, f-stop and that it is a risk that you might be out of focus at the wrong time, or not be on the ball because you're not fast enough with the zoom. But I think a lot of the times you do have to take a bit of risk, because then the quality better. And we had a lot of cameras on it, so you could always go to that other safer camera anyway. So these guys, I think they did an amazing job in some of the games. You just feel like, I'm watching live coverage here.
Yes. I mean, so many of the episodes that cover the games are like, I marvel at it. And knowing that there are games when it's just you or just one cameraman in general, that is incredibly impressive. I know that shooting sports on a prime lens and having to switch between lenses, that is extremely stressful. So kudos to you, man. That's awesome.
Well, I mean, it came from having filmed a lot of games and thinking, I can get away with this, because I really want the nice f-stop, and I really want that. And we did certainly, like when we had a lot of cameras, I would quite often stay on a prime, and I'd be able to go from a face that was in the crowd to action and back again, because I had the confidence. One, if I didn't quite get it, some other people were getting it. Sorry, that's the overground that's next to my window. And if I knew that I was, had to be on the ball, I'd probably go back to the ingenue, which is a zoom lens, but a nice, f2 zoom lens, and you could go quite way in or quite way out. And also the cameras we were using, you didn't have to use the 4K sensor. You could use the Super 16 sensor, but still get 14K rushes. So you suddenly were punched in another 30 to 40%, which gave you far more reach onto the pitch than you had before. And knowing when to do that, like you really had to go, right, now's the time, because it takes you about 20, 30 seconds to swap in the menu settings. And you don't want to be caught out when there's suddenly action. And you would have watched football where you turn your back and it's like the wave of an ocean. Never turn your back, because the action will be past you before you know
it. Yep, that happens to everybody. I mean, one of the episodes, was it the second to last one, I guess, of the season, where Glenn leaves to go to the bathroom and they score. And like that happened to like Rob earlier in the season. Like it happens to me just going in the other room for literally 2 seconds to get a glass of water the other day. We scored, and it just but we're not under the pressure of having to film it. So it's just disappointment for us. It's not, missing something that could potentially go in the documentary. So
that's true. And obviously, if you do miss a goal or an injury, it's a big editorial point. So you obviously, I mean, obviously, if they score a lot of goals, you might be able to miss one out, but you don't want to. You don't want to give them, what I have to say to, LA. Can you cut around this bit? We'd rather they had it all.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, when I was filming Will Ferrell, I can't remember which season we're in now. Is that season 2?
Season 2, yeah.
Season 2, yeah. And he was on his phone when one of the goals was scored.
Yes.
And I was on him because I could actually see he wasn't watching, and you just see him sort of look up and around, going, "Oh, what happened?" And then for the rest of the match, he's like, "Okay, anytime we get near our goal, I'm just going to pretend to be on the phone." And that's what he did. He just pulled out his phone and just kept tapping.
That was such a good moment.
He jinxed the whole thing if he wasn't on his phone.
That's so good. That's such a good moment to get on camera too, because like even that's so funny, because like you could be paying attention to the game, to the match, getting the goal on camera, but instead you're filming a guy missing getting the goal on camera, which is just comedy in and of itself.
It was really, because obviously I knew we had that match. We had two corner cameras, so we were fine in all the proper coverage. And it's not usually I'm up in the box. Normally I'm next to the coach. So it was. I remember walking around going, "Well, I'm glad I got that moment," because that was quite special.
So when it's just you, for people who don't know, how much running around the field, like how many steps or miles, or like how much are you sweating by the end of a match?
Oh, Wales is pretty cold.
Okay.
I mean, and obviously it's a winter sport here in the UK. So I'm going to say, yeah, I guess you probably do. The thing that happens, and we do have to plan this, is when you go inside the dressing room, or the change room, or however you want to call it, and you've got 20 sweating guys in there, the lens just sucks and fogs up. So what we had to do is have 2 lenses the same. It's quite expensive. One sitting in there pre-warmed, and the other one you didn't have to worry about, because when you took it outside, it went cold. So that wasn't the problem. It's only when it went warm, and that one stayed inside. And I would basically run in, and I got about 30 seconds to change that lens, which sometimes wasn't enough. And then be at the door for when the players turn from the tunnel and they're heading towards me. And you had to time it. You had to sometimes, and this happened many times when, because I was quite often on the crowd cheering when a goal would happen, and the producer would go, "Okay, time to go in." I say, fine. So I turn the corner, and just as I hit the corner of the tunnel, I can hear a crowd cheer. They've obviously scored in the last 30 seconds, and I'm not on it. And you just, what can you do? Because you haven't got a shot of you haven't got a shot of Phil or Steve, all those, you've kind of missed it. And I know that the 2 corner cameras can't be concentrating on them. That was my job, but unfortunately there is a disconnect. And because we try and keep the footprint low, especially for the coaching staff, you don't want to put 2 cameras next to them, because it just gets in their way, and it just annoys them. So we try and keep that as small as possible, but it also means this could happen, and it has happened a couple of times. But yeah, as far as temperature goes, I would say yes, when you step inside that room, because you're outside and you're running around a bit, you're a nice temperature. But then you get inside and you've got to strip off, because if you start sweating, then your eye starts sweating, and then the viewfinder starts sweating, and then you can't see anything, which is a bit of a problem.
Yes, very much so. That's an interesting point that I've always thought about with these high stress situations and like these live events and live games is like how often, and you don't have to reveal names or anything, but like how do your subjects ever get frustrated with you or your other cameramen with you being in the way or being there when they don't want you to be there?
I'm not going to say that they get frustrated at us, because they haven't really announced it, but I would say they probably do, because us being there isn't their day job. Their day job is to win matches,
right?
And we just try and, like I said before, keep as low footprint as possible, and knowing where to stand at certain times, knowing when it's appropriate to enter a room. This is all known beforehand. And if I'm on my own, then I'll try, judge it as best as possible. But quite often the producer will go in without a camera and then just turn around and he'll sort of signal to come in. So that, yeah, it's, and every week you kind of have to reset. You can't just say, well, last week we did it this way, even though that's your framework. You have to pretend that every match is new, and you have to make sure that you have their respect, and trying to show them that I'm trying to be out your way as much as possible, even though I've got this lens in your face constantly, is, I guess, the best way to honor their work, because they've already, this is, can you imagine someone in your house or your work following you approximately 8 hours of the day and you being all right with that?
Right. Yeah. And seeing you at your worst possible moment, and like,
when a match
getting
is lost, terrible feeling. I feel terrible. I want the team to win.
Yeah.
And, I'm from Australia. We do now, but we certainly didn't play football when I grew up. Football, we have football, but it's a different thing. It's Australian rules. It's rugby. It's rugby league. But soccer, as Americans would call it, didn't exist in Australia for a long time, and obviously it's grown there now since I left the country. But I place very high respect in all the coaching staff, because we are with them and ask a lot of favors, and when they've said no, I've never been worried by it, because they have the right. Because they've given us so much in the past, and I know that they will continue to give us stuff in the future.
Yeah, you don't want to be pushy and be nitpicky and just try to get something that they're not interested in you getting or whatever. That totally makes sense to me. I want to talk about your drone work, because some of the drone shots in this are by far my favorite shots of the entire series. First of all, what kind of drone do you typically use?
So I've got 3 drones,
Sweet.
but I mainly use the Mavic class ones, and for the shooting, I use the Mavic 2 Zoom.
Okay.
And the reason why I got that particular one is because the zoom is a glass zoom rather than a digital zoom, which means when I do get 4K images and I zoom into, past the 25 standard mil and it goes to 50 mil, you can definitely tell the quality is similar. And the other drone I got is a Mavic 3 Cine Pro, which is spectacular, and it also has amazing zoom. It seems, I'm not sure how that one works, actually. I'm still sort of looking at the mechanics of it, because I think it is digital part glass. And so the quality, the rushes are very high, and the main reason I wanted to move to the new one is because it shoots ProRes, and I don't know if you know what ProRes rushes are, but they're obviously infinitely better quality than the H.265 rushes we were getting on the Mavic 2.
Gotcha.
Small, the size of, sort of, when it's spread out, about the size of a laptop. Very lightweight, good in high wind. Gets you, when you're asking permission and you say the drone is under a kilo, it helps a lot. I know that a lot of drone permissions will get you a lot further if you're under 250 grams, but the under 250 grams drones don't have a great sensor or a good codec. And we obviously wanted quite high codec for this production. So, and obviously you have to do a lot of training, and you have to qualify. And I'm obviously a CAA qualified pilot. I'm also an FAA qualified pilot.
There we go.
I'm also a European qualified pilot, and that's a lot of courses. But you certainly get drummed into you what the rules are, and what the safety protocols are when things go wrong. And we're flying. We were never, as part of CAA rules, allowed to fly over the crowds during a match. Right. That's definitely against the law, but you fly as close as you can legally. And this is why on the Mavic 2, it was very handy. I could zoom in and made it look like I was very close when actually I was quite far away.
Yeah, that is incredibly helpful. I love flying drones. That's one of my biggest things. It's how I got into real estate photography.
Right.
That's kind of my side gig. And yeah, I do the little mini 2 for the real estate photography because it's just so simple and easy
Yeah.
and tiny and can take literally in your pocket anywhere.
Yep.
But I love that Mavic 2. Those things are so good. And yeah, that's been my thing for a very long time. I tried to get on a few docuseries just as a drone pilot, but I don't have enough, or I didn't have enough footage at the time. I was trying to get on that. Do you ever watch Long Way Down, Long Way Round, and Long Way Up?
I think I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
Okay, cool.
It's
It's
an
Ewan
American
McGregor.
series, is that right?
It's British and Scottish, yeah, Scottish. I don't know. It's got an American producer on it, Russ Malkin, and then it's Ewan McGregor and one of his buddies. They travel.
Oh
around,
yes, of course. What am I thinking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Travel around the world on motorcycles.
Around the world on the motorbikes.
Yeah. So I tried to get on that one, but they already were crewed up and didn't need another drone pilot. So
yeah, I mean, I must admit, when the drone came in, it was a bit annoying because it was just, you had stop for it to be done all the time, and then I realized I wouldn't get certain gigs because I wasn't a drone pilot.
Yes.
So I thought, well, I have to now, and I really enjoy it, especially the new one I've got. It just feels like helicopter rushes.
Yes.
You know, they feel so close, and I'm able to get, you know, things that you wouldn't get from helicopter because it's too loud, or you know, you can get, you know, flying under bridges and flying under things legally, of course, where you've got permission, and flying through things that you obviously couldn't do in a helicopter. Then it feels surreal, which is, you know, it's important. You want to make it do things that other kit can't do. Otherwise, it just becomes, you know, very blasé and pedestrian.
Oh, absolutely. I'm unfamiliar with the laws as far as drone pilots go in the UK. What are some of the hoops you got to jump through to become a legal flyer there?
Well, you first have to sit a test, and that requires about 20 hours of sort of online work.
Okay.
And then you have to prove you can fly, which I know in America you don't necessarily have to.
Nope.
And they will watch you do simple things like fly out to 50 meters from yourself and try and do a circle of 8. And they'll check, an observer checking that you can do the circle of 8.
Okay.
And then they'll fly you out almost as far as you're legally allowed to. And then they'll cover your eyes, and they'll turn the drone a bit, and then they'll say, as quick as you can, bring it back to you. And you have to work out, because obviously there's an easy way to point the drone at yourself. And I must admit, in my head now, I can't remember how to do it, but I know how to do it with my hands, a bit like driving a car. And then if you can successfully do that, then you know how to orientate the drone, and you know when it's heading away from you rather than coming towards you. You know, I would say that the laws in the UK are definitely more restrictive than the US. I feel like there is more freedom, but in the recent sort of updates, they've got a bit freer with the newer drones, and as they get lighter, they're getting a bit easier with the laws. But you know, it's similar. Having sat all 3 tests now, it's similar things with a few little tweaks here and there.
Okay.
But generally speaking, obviously you can't fly over roads if there's traffic. You definitely can't fly over highways. Can't fly over assemblies of people. But that's what a good zoom is for. And you can do things, I think, with these drones that you couldn't do before. So you use these tools to the best of your ability. And it is funny when someone from a different country says, "Oh, can you do this?" And you think, "I'd love to be able to do that, but I really can't. If I was in your country, I could do that." But not here.
I do miss the days before, like, laws and regulations caught up to drone technology, because I was flying way back then, and there were like no rules at the beginning. Like they had no idea how to regulate them at the very beginning, and then they overcorrected, and now it seems like it's back to what it maybe should be, maybe not. I don't know, but it was like the Wild West for a while.
You know, people who went a bit nuts and caused a bit of harm or caused danger, unfortunately ruined it for everyone else.
Yep, those dum-dums trying to catch an airplane from 15 feet away, landing at an airport.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll get you in trouble, definitely.
Yeah, don't fly it into the engine of a plane. That should be step, that should be the first thing you learn.
That is great.
um, what else? I had so basically one of my big questions was like, what has been your favorite part of working on Welcome to Wrexham?
Oh, I think because early on well, there's two parts, and one that surprised me at how much I enjoyed it. We originally shot the actuality on Zooms, and we sort of looked at some of the rushes and went, can we improve the look? And this was sort of fed back from sort of LA and through John and Milosh, and we obviously had a set of primes in our kit, and we used the primes for shooting interviews, and they were sort of older Zeiss, very fast 1.3. So if you open them wide open and you were in a sort of dark space, you'd see the edges vignette a little bit. So that's how fast they were.
Yeah.
And I had shot because of the kit was spread around too much one day, and I just had primes with me, and I had shot a scene of actuality with primes, and we sort of looked at it, and I sort of said to I think it was John, or it might have been Milosh, but I had said to them, like, I really enjoyed that. I think there's something in that. And it's risk. And I've certainly shot productions before where I have used primes as actuality, but you really know what you're getting. Whereas you could walk in a room in Wrexham and you think you're filming one thing, but because something's happening out of the pitch, you're suddenly filming something else. And I said, I just really enjoyed it. Maybe this is what we should do. So we ended up shooting almost all the actuality on primes, 50, 35, 25, occasionally 85. And it was, even though, yes, you can't zoom out and you can't get that thing that you want and stuff like that, you train yourself into saying, right, I've got this. And for the next, unless there's a break in the actuality, I'm just going to shoot it as best I can. And you can use the f-stop to sort of physically or mentally vignette things that normally you would zoom in or out on. And it felt like a real tool. And obviously you had better range if the light wasn't as great. So I was really proud that everyone took that on board, and we just decided to shoot prime lenses, which was great. And I felt like some of the scenes were really special that way. And the other thing was, as far as special moments go, was of course when Wrexham was promoted. And I was standing next to Phil when the final whistle blew, and the feeling and the atmosphere, and as we all got crushed with the pitch invasion. And invasion is probably the wrong term for that sort of thing, because it was such a lovely feeling with everyone. And, a sigh of relief, I guess, from people who were slightly worried that, we'll go down again and it won't happen. But yeah, it was really special. It was really special. And just to be sort of next to the people that you'd sort of bothered for a few years
right.
and to see them successful was just a great feeling. And I definitely, will park that in my brain for as long as I can, because, you can shoot a great scene and it just means something to you, or there's something that's happened in front of you that you haven't shot so well, but it means something to them. But I felt like that day we'd shot it well, and it meant something to them, and it meant something to us. So it was a really great day.
That's the perfect storm. That's such a good feeling for everybody to experience, like their individual and personal high in that moment, and then do it collectively all at the same time. That's a great feeling. One more question. I know a lot of cinematographers, videographers, all this that love to do one specific thing. Like I know a bunch of people who love to just shoot wildlife, who love to just shoot sports. Is there like a specific genre you prefer shooting, or do you like the variety of shooting different things?
Oh no, definitely the latter. I definitely like variety, and it just means you've just got challenges, and it's not same old. And maybe that's why Wrexham was something that was didn't just provide stability in the fact that you kind of knew the people you were filming every day, and you knew the people you were filming with every day. There was new challenges, and we had shot things that didn't end up making it, but we tried. And road trips, long hours, try and keep the quality up as best you can, even though we're all super tired sometimes. Quality is important to me, and I started in Australia shooting news, which I'm not going to denigrate, because it certainly gave me a bit of craft. And I actually, when I first started in television, I just got a job cleaning a floor in a studio.
Wow.
And I got promoted, if I can call it that, to floor direct, it's called, where you basically just point the presenter, you've got 3 cameras on the floor, you just point to the one that they're going to next. And then I got promoted to floor camera, so I was behind one of those cameras, and then it was up in the box, so I would be doing the audio fade, and then I'd be doing Chiron. I just went through the whole list because it was a tiny channel, and then within 2 years I was directing stuff live. You'd be switching, which was a great, you sort of went through the whole gamut. And then by the end of it, I think, I really love the EFP, ENG stuff, so I went down the camera route. And but it was that variety has stayed with me. Now I'm doing cameras, so I occasionally do commercials and online stuff. I'll do a little bit of drama, but not as much. I'm looking to sort of do a bit more for that in the future. But wildlife is something I started about 5-6 years ago. And this latest project I'm doing is I don't know if you know, but in Saudi Arabia they're building this thing called the Line, which is a city in 120 kilometers in one straight thing. So we were at the construction site for a couple of weeks, and that's going to be ongoing. And in my head, because I'm a nerd, I'm thinking, what is this thing going to look like as it goes up? And hopefully I'll be there every 6 months just seeing it built, which would be amazing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I have so many more questions that just sprang up, but I'm not going to ask them right now because we'll be here for hours. But I totally like that. That's the whole reason I love shooting films and shooting documentaries is the variety. And I am a director, but I also operate a camera while I'm doing my documentaries, because I know that the shot that I want to get, and my other camera operators, I want them doing other things, but I love having a camera in my hand. So I completely jive with that. Just wanting to be with the camera.
Yeah. And how do you find, because I find it difficult when I do have other teams and you're hoping that they're getting the thing that you hope. And then, I don't want to say it's a bad thing, because quite often they're getting something better and they make you look good.
Exactly.
But if they don't quite get the thing you got, it's hard to sort of relinquish that responsibility and not be annoyed by it, because you're like, I really had the shot in mind and it didn't come through. But at the same time, they might have produced 10 more shots you never thought of that's made the show lift by 10%. So it's a real, it is like, I have thought about there will be jobs coming up in the future where I don't touch the camera. I am literally DOP from the tent, I think you can call it. And that'll be hard, because you really have to trust people.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a whole different set of skills, like being able to use your words to direct somebody to get what you want them to get. That's like completely different skill set than figuring out how to get angles and all that.
Yeah. When you shoot actuality, you have to really edit in your head as though you're an editor.
Yes.
When is a good time to pull away for the cutaway of the person nodding? You have to. I try and explain to people who ask me about it. You never win with actuality, especially if you're single camera. You never win. But what you have to do is remember the whole conversation as best you can, because you think, okay, I've missed that bit because I was pointing the other way, so I'll need a cutaway. Or if it's a disaster, I'll need to do it again, which obviously you never want to do. You always want to just finish the conversation and let them leave the room and get cutaways that help you out.
Yes.
And I see people who are new to actuality stressing because they just want to be in both places. And quite often you get the response, oh, let's get 2 or 3 cameras on it. And what happens when you put 2 or 3 cameras is the first camera will destroy the best shot of the second camera, and the second camera will destroy the best shot of the first camera. So you never get the angle that's best. Yes. So I'm always a fan, if I do have 2 cameras in the room, is that I will shoot a cam and I will pretend that the other camera doesn't exist. So I'm pretending like I'm getting everything. But if the other person is doing their job, they'll be literally shooting the thing I'm not as best they can. So if in the edit it just looks fluid and dynamic and it looks like single camera and unproduced, but occasionally, which of course happens, I'm not pointing in the right direction, you've got this backup, longer lens, stepped a bit further back. Maybe it's not the best shot, but it enhances the fact that then the people you're filming you don't have to call them back. Oh, can we just do this again? Oh, can we do that again? So, training people to not stress about that is hard because you only learn by doing and then watching your rushes or editing your rushes. I always suggest that, because I was an editor before I was a cameraman, that you do that, because then you shoot something, bring it back, and then realize how much you really messed up.
Exactly.
And then do it again, and then do it again, and do it again. And I'm never going to say that like I walk away from an actuality scene saying I got 100% of things, because you don't. What you have got is what you hope is the best thing that was in front of you in camera, and then you've got the cutaways that will glue that together.
Absolutely. Well, I think you and your team do a fantastic job on the docuseries. I love the shots you get. I love the framing of everything. There's there were times when I wasn't getting, I started clipping the show to put on this show, and then I started getting copyright issues. And so I stopped doing that. And, but there were half of the things that I would clip were basically y'all's shots, and y'all just do such a phenomenal job. So really appreciate y'all doing that and making the story even better than it already was. So,
well, that's very nice for you to say. I'm glad that, it's really nice to hear people appreciate the work, but also just, enjoy the series, because I shoot many series that you think, oh, maybe someone will comment. Nope, not a single comment. But this one has been surpassed that tenfold.
Oh, well, phenomenal. You deserve it. Is there any projects coming out that you've worked on that you want to promote real quick?
Well, there is. Obviously Planet Earth 3 is going out now, so that's quite nice. And I went to the TX for the first one a while ago, but I've been away. There is one that I'm hoping coming off in China next year. I'm not allowed to talk about it. And I filmed a lot in China and obviously not been back since COVID. So I'm kind of hoping that comes off. There's a series I've done about COVID for Netflix.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A few other ones about famous tennis players, which hopefully will come out soon.
Okay.
There's a lot in the works.
All right.
Unfortunately, it just takes years for them to come out these days.
Yep.
So it's unusual you would shoot something and it's out within a month. It just takes some time. Yeah. Nothing that stands above Wrexham at the moment, although obviously we always hope to improve.
There we go. All right. Well, Craig, thank you so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
No problem. I appreciate you getting in contact. I listened to your first episode and I feel like I'm going to be listening to a few more.
Well, fantastic. I appreciate that. All right, y'all. That'll do it for this one. Peace.
Thank you.
So there you have it. That was my interview. Craig Hastings, you stud, you beast. Keep killing it out there. Absolutely loved talking to you, man. You're welcome back on the show anytime. And looking forward to see what your upcoming projects will be over the next few years. I'll be following your career. So thank you for coming on the show. For anybody who's still around, drop a like on the video, share it with your friends, your family, people you don't know, people you don't like, just everybody, just share it around. You can go follow me on Instagram and Twitter, WXM Texan, the Wrexham Texan. For any, I post on Instagram quite a bit. I do tweets of the day, quotes of the day. I do the Texan of the match if we win a game. If we lose a game, there's no Texan of the match, so yeah, head on over there for that. I do red hot takes directly after the game. And I think I might start doing some Instagram live stuff right after the game, possibly. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe some Twitter spaces. I don't know. But yeah, head on over to those platforms if you want to follow me on there. That's it for this week. Next week is a review of the final episode of Welcome to Wrexham of season 2. So you won't want to miss that. So come back next week, 12 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. GMT for some more Wrexham Texan. Thanks, y'all. Y'all have a great week. Up the town.
Search my soul with all your heart, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. And if you knock my soul with all your strength, you're gonna find it. You're gonna find it.